Infiltrate Radio.
All right, so welcome to Infiltrate Radio. My name is Patrick, and today is May, what did I say, 29th, right? Yeah, May 29th. And on the show today, I have a very special guest here, Mr. Jonathan Green. As a matter of fact, he used to be my boss at one point.
Going back a few years.
Yeah. How long ago was that? That was 10 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say 2008, 2009.
It's been a while, so thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks
and
for
doing
having
the
me.
show.
Yeah.
You're no longer my boss, so I don't have to
Nope.
worry about drinking whiskey, which is why we're drinking here
That's
some
why we
hot
promote it.
toddies.
Yeah.
Got some. So the thing about the show here is every time we do a show, Jonathan, we do a different alcohol, right? So
Outstanding.
sometimes it's vodka, sometimes it's cider. We've done beer. This time it is something that I just happened to be at the liquor store. It's called Traditional Cas Krupnikas, small batch stuff, and it's made with honey and like a whole bunch of spices and stuff like that. And I know you were sick, so I figured let's get some tea in there, and that's
Perfect.
Harney and Sons Paris.
Oh, it's outstanding.
Is it any good or what?
Cheers. It's fantastic. Yeah.
So if this ends up turning into like
This is good.
NPR-esque, because
Yeah,
we're drinking
exactly.
tea,
get
hopefully
very low.
we won't put people to sleep. But the reason I had you on because you're a musician, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? And you're a mover and shaker in town here a little bit. And you like to do things. And I like talking to people that like to do things.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I've always been interested in you because when you did work, when you were my boss, you had a way about you when you ran the call center there that was really inspirational. And I think you're a great leader. And I think that that shows in the bands that you put together too. It takes someone that can really get people motivated and on the same page to make bands work.
Bands are interesting. Yeah.
I apparently am not the type to have a band, as time has proven over and over again, which is why I tend to go solo. But I wanted to bring you on because you have a new project, right?
Yeah,
a new
yeah.
band you're working with. So tell us a little bit about
Yeah. Well, thanks first and foremost for having me. It's interesting. I mean, I'm not a young kid anymore. Been in bands since I was 15, and over the years, you take those experiences and you try to morph them into something that you think will work. But it's always a gamble. You're rolling the dice, people.
Yeah.
You put 4, 5, 6 people together and add the musician aspect, the artist aspect, and you're either going to get something magical or you're going to get a train wreck. There's very little middle class in that.
Right.
And so the new project has been something that I've been thinking about for literally 10 years. So back when we worked together, it started with a crazy idea from a couple of reps in New Hire that wanted to put together like a Ringo Starr all-star band because there were so many musicians in the call center and we never really talked about it. And then once it started to happen, you were like, oh, you play drums, oh, you play bass, you play this. I'm like, oh, let's jam, see what happens. And there was some magic there. There was actually, we wrote some, goofy corporate songs that turned out to be kind of hits. And it just kind of activated that musician in me again. I had taken like 10 years off from it and did, family and work and all that good stuff that you do. But I never lost the love for it. So that kind of kickstarted me to get back into the discipline of it. And that's when I started to play with Avis Lewis. And, she worked with us too. She still works with me now. And she's a voice to be reckoned with. She's got an amazing voice.
So before we get into the new project, which I promise we'll talk about, that initial band that you had with all the people in the corporate environment. I mean, did you guys practice? Was it something that you had a space there that you could actually practice there, or you had to practice outside and then kind of?
Totally outside. Yeah. This is I won't bore everybody with these kind of details, but corporate America is morphed. You hear about companies like Zappos that, you can drink all day at work and there's no dress code and that kind of stuff. That was unheard of 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
Corporate America's definitely evolved, thank God.
Yeah.
But at the time that this idea came up, we were still pretty darn conservative, as you remember.
Yeah.
And it was still kind of suits and ties and more formal. So the idea of a work band had all kinds of rules because I was the boss these were non-exempt employees, which means they're
Right.
they're non-salaried, so waivers and all this crap. And we were like, screw it, let's just go to Josh Davey, who is our drummer and a trainer. He's got a basement with his drum kit. Let's just go hang out and see what happens.
Yeah.
We fit in between his washer and dryer and old school style, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was just fun. It was just people playing music.
It's funny that that you left music, for a while, and I feel like when I worked at Verizon too, because I no longer work there, but when I worked at Verizon, there was kind of a culture that was going on there that was interesting. There was a lot of like people that were very intelligent and very motivated to do things, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like everyone that kind of started around that time or was in the company at that time went on to do
Agreed.
things, right?
Yeah.
So I know you started the band thing there, and
Yeah.
had to obviously convince some people to
Yeah.
allow that to happen when you did, because you performed in front of like all the employees there
Yeah.
too, which was awesome to have like a concert just
It
in
was.
a call.
Yeah, and it was, and we had to get approval. And I remember calling my vice president at the time, who was an amazing human being. She was incredibly supportive of me in my career. I didn't think she'd ever say yes to that. And I was like, we got this kickoff every year that we do to start the year, get people fired up. What if we had the band play 3 songs at the end and just shock the hell out of everybody?
Right.
And, flash cut to the end of it. I'm in the middle of this song. There's 500 people at the Hochstein down the street here. And I can't believe this is happening. And I'm in full rocker mode,
Right.
like with my leg up on the PA, my crotch like 10 feet away from my vice president going, I don't think this is approved at work, but this is awesome. And it resonated. And that really became a turning point of like how to be genuine, just being comfortable in your own skin and going, yeah, I'm a musician. I'm also a corporate guy. I can do both.
Right.
And that was different.
And I think it's funny too. Like, it's surprising what happens when you either just ask to do something,
exactly,
and how many times people are like, yeah. And I think that's the biggest hang up sometimes with people doing what they want to do in life, is the fact that they don't ask, or they always think,
I couldn't agree more.
They're always going to assume that the answer is no, or that it's not going to work, or that's someone else that does that. That person acting in the movie is someone else.
That's exactly
doing
right.
it.
I could never do that. Right.
It's so out of reach for them. Like when at Verizon too, I used to do just video stuff all the time, and I just started working that into like my day job too. And the more I did it, the more people wanted me to do it.
And then all of a sudden we needed it.
And then I'm like, doing like film at work in a corporate environment as an engineer.
Right.
But it's surprising that the more you are yourself, and the more you put it out there, like, hey, I've got these other skills that I have too. How accepting people are, and how much they're like, oh yeah, we want more of that. That's kind of probably why we hired you.
Exactly.
Like we had this
it's
feeling
the genuine
about you.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and that's what I've recognized about you, Jonathan, too, is that you're that kind of person that's like, all right, let's just do this thing and let's go do it. And you're very.
I'll get yelled at later.
Yeah. They say that, right? Apologize. It's better to apologize than to.
You just gotta try. I think that growing up, the youngest between my brother and I helped with that too, because he kind of grew up the rule follower, and I was like, screw that. Well, I'll get yelled at later.
Are you middle? Middle?
Yeah, youngest.
Oh, you're the youngest. Okay.
So I was a little brat that just kind of got away with everything. But
have you always been like that? You've always been.
But you nailed it. I mean, you really nailed it, because there have definitely been times when I look back, whether it's career, personal life, whatever, that I had that moment of fear, or like, nah, that's not going to happen. Or I think about, like the band I was in my early 20s, and we had something really cool. But I remember talking to our bass player at the time, and I was immediately like, that ain't going to happen, man. Grunge is blowing up, and we're not that kind of band, and we're not in the right scene. Like, we just talked ourselves out of it. We didn't even try. So, of course, we didn't go anywhere, because we didn't even have the, cojones to step up and just give it a shot. So I think with a little bit of age, too, I think that does help, because my don't give a fuck meter has really increased over the years, because I got nothing to prove to anybody, So that helps. But when you're 20, 25, you don't know who you are yet, and you're full of piss and vinegar and great ideas. But the world is kind of against you. And I think we got to help more people like that. That's why I love the scene around here, because you've got a great balance of youth and that fire, but you also have some institutionalized folks in a good way, not in a non-progressive way, but in a good way that can really mentor and help folks out. Because I think it is just the fear of fear. Yeah, is really what
there's
drives that.
a quote from Steve Jobs that I like too, where he says, "As soon as you figure out that, what is it that no one in the everyone in the world is no smarter than you are, is the day that it like changes your vision." You know,
that's exactly
when
right.
when you realize that when you push the world, you can actually make things happen.
Yeah.
And stuff starts to actually happen when you
Right,
do that.
right.
It's an unbelievable change in your perception of what's going
you're
on.
so
you know?
right. Yeah.
You know, the people in government, the people that are making rules for everyone, the people that are you know, creating these culturally significant, you know, pieces of art or movies or whatever. They're just individuals who are like, you know what, I'm going to do that and go out and do it. So
and that's all it takes.
I don't recognize that in a lot of people, but you in particular.
Oh, thank you.
I did recognize that, like, kind of from the start when you were the director there.
Yeah,
so.
it definitely got me in plenty of trouble. I had plenty of phone calls late at night where I was like, oh, that just ended the career. But you learn from it. You know, there is a balance between, you know, there's reckless and then there's reckless. You know, I don't believe in you know, stupidity for the sake of stupidity, but the thrill comes from the doing what everybody says you can't, you know, and kind of pushing that barrier a little bit.
I definitely agree with that. I think that, you know, sometimes people's kind of fear of either being embarrassed by what they're doing, you know, they're like with music, right? You go in front of all your corporate employees and everyone that works for you or you work for, and you get up there and you feel like, oh, I might be looking like a fool, right? Or I do the film thing and I'm gonna look crazy or stupid by doing this. And every time I've done something like that, like with this radio show, right? Yeah. Like everyone's like, I'm doing a radio show, or at least in my mind, that's what I thought everyone would be thinking. But now here we are, like 20 episodes in, right? And I've had a few
and people love it
and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm relatively successful, at least from the small scale. And I think that totally holds people back. That you know, I like you said, as time goes on and I get older too, my don't give a fuck meter has
really
gone,
changes. Yeah,
has changed.
A couple of friends that just turned 40, you know, they're so worried about the damn number and what it means and this and, you know, your metabolism slows and all this bullshit.
Right.
And they started to feel that way about, like, man, I just don't care about some of these things. Not they don't care about the good things. They care about the good things. But some of just the societal stuff or the work pressures or you got to prove yourself to anybody. Just be who you are.
And I think it's definitely, I mean, you got to be a little calculated with it too. Like I said, don't be reckless with it, but think through the consequences of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
But
our first song wasn't "Take This Job and Shove It." Right. You know, you got to be smart about it. But you know, So but we did to that point though. We did pick, you know, a Muse song that was all about anti-corporate America and the gentrification.
What song was it?
Oh my God, it was their first big hit, and I'm totally blanking on which one it was. Oh, that's gonna make me nuts. I'll think about it. Okay. But we picked that song as the opener on purpose because one, it was a hit. It had a great beat. Right. It was gonna get everybody out of their seats. But then that little subversive side of us was like, nobody's paying attention to the lyrics. We can get away with this. So
that's funny. And I think that got the call center, everyone that worked in the call center, on your side too. Like, oh, he's not one of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes that gets lost in those environments too. I mean, I've had the luck to have a lot of great managers and leaders while I've worked there, and I've heard some horror stories of other people within the organization or whatever too. Very true. But surprisingly, the few that I had have been that type of person too, where they have their stuff on the side that they're doing and they integrate it into work, and they're not the boss. Yeah, and I think that what you just said is the key is you look at whether it's industry, whether it's what decade we're in, what movement, God knows the phrase millennial has been used too much. Right. But there's truth behind some of that you learn as you go. The way that
this leader was in the 70s, the way that Steve Jobs was in the late 80s into the 90s doesn't necessarily apply today. But in some ways it does. It's just a constant evolution. And if you're lucky enough, like you said, to have some folks that make a real impact and are just comfortable in your own skin, it's amazing what people do. I mean, they can accomplish anything. It sounds so cheesy to say it, but it's true.
It's like I see a level of when people get frustrated with what's going on, let's say in government or with what's going out in the world. There's a certain level of like they've got to fix it.
Yeah.
But I think the real thing is to understand that they don't have to fix it. Like, you're here. It's obviously it's affecting you. You need to do something about the solution, or you need to come with a solution. Which is a big corporate environment. Don't come to me with problems. Come to me with solutions.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Go out and you can solve problems if you make an attempt to do it. So I don't know. I just always appreciate that about you, and I thought I'd bring that up. Yeah. Which obviously comes in handy with bands, right? And kind of managing bands and people, because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you tend to be the leader kind of the band, or at least not necessarily leader, but the front man of the band. And that requires some level of organizing people and making sure on stage that everyone's doing what they need to be doing.
Yeah.
The songs go where they need to go.
There's a vision behind it usually. Yeah. That's exactly
right.
So
I know, again, I'm just teasing people.
Oh, I love it.
With the new project.
Awesome.
But obviously you've had...
We're doing the same.
Yeah. You've had bands before this current project that you're doing that we will get into. But the bands before this, I know that with at least the previous one, you were doing quite a bit of cover songs,
yes.
right?
Yeah. Full-on party band.
Before that, did you have original bands? And
yeah, I've done both. Growing up, it was all kind of original with some covers. Like, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we grew up as thrash kids. So, Exodus, Metallica, Death Angel, those were our hometown bands. Those were the local bands before they blew up. And so, Bon Jovi, Poison, all that stuff was big at the same time, and we hated all those bands. But what we were into wasn't just that genre. So we created bands that kind of mixed genres and did our own thing. But it only made us happy. And at the time, that's why we talked ourselves out of it. It was because it only made us happy. There was no market for it.
Right.
And hindsight, we should have stuck with that. Like, that's what makes a good band, is when they're just doing what they love.
Yeah. And did you find like people weren't coming out?
We played to the bouncer or to the two bartenders, and we had this great little pizza joint that would hire rock bands and metal bands. It was the funniest thing in the world to see people crowd surfing as somebody's trying to pass a pizza through. Right. But they supported local bands, and so we did that. So that's when I learned about cover bands, and I'm like, well, if I want to play, because I just love playing, I can always do that.
Yeah. And
if I can't find the right group of people to get originals going, at least let me go do that. And we did that for a bit, played a couple weddings, did, the proverbial golf course gigs and that. And you realize pretty quick, like, hey, that's a cool market. You can make some money, but you got to put a shield on you as a musician, because it's going to wear on you a little bit. And so at that point, now I'm off to college, and I'm like, that's just a hobby.
Right.
However many years later, we come back at it and we're doing this corporate thing, and I'm like, hey, this could be fun. Let's put a cover band together, because, there's all these genres we could do, and we're a diverse band. So that's where that came from. So the band Last Night, that was the cheesy name we came up with. Play on words, was like a party band, and we wanted it that way because I'm a rock guy. The drummer was kind of a post-pop punk guy. We had a jazz trained, like, brilliant, keyboard saxophonist. Our singer Avis that I mentioned earlier is this blues and gospel singer, and
she's got an amazing voice.
Oh yeah, and so Brian and Tim, the other guys, we all had these wild backgrounds, and it totally worked because we brought that together. And we could play Wolfmother and play, anything else that you threw at us to Maroon 5.
Right.
And that's what we were good at. And so we did that for the past 3.5, 4 years and did really well. I think for a part-time band, I think our biggest year was we paid like 28 gigs.
Oh, wow.
For people that,
not-
barely did it, that was pretty good. And we're getting paid a pretty good clip for it. But
and obviously you had daytime jobs.
yeah,
everything
everybody
else,
had their own
families
lives and
all that
kids.
kind of stuff.
You got it, yeah. So it was just a fun band. Yeah.
It's because you you had actually played. We had the donut best cider donut in
Yes.
Rochester contest at my bar, and you had played. We had like the university festival or whatever I put
Yeah.
together, and
That was
and that
awesome.
was it started raining. So you guys originally
Pouring on
I
us,
had like
yeah.
House of Guitars had sponsored it, and we had like a little thing outside, a tent and all that. And it started pouring. So
Yep.
you guys you all came into Muller's. What was this? 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And you were just like shoved over into the corners, all wet.
We were sitting on each other,
from the
soaking
rain,
wet, yeah.
sweating in there with the crowd. But people really
Oh, we had a
dug
blast.
dug
Yeah.
dug you guys. I mean, the energy that you guys had
It was fun.
with each other was great. I mean, and I think that's something that happens with good bands too. Is when a gig like that happens,
Yeah.
and you're still able to have fun, and it's a story afterwards. Like, oh,
You
man,
got
that-
it, yeah. There's
that was
almost
crazy.
muscle memory, and that's where, going back to what you said before, that's where I can be a bit of a director. I can be a little bit more of my day job personality because my philosophy with bands tends to be a little bit more Bruce Springsteen blue collar, that we're gonna rehearse
Right.
until it's muscle memory. So that way, when crazy shit happens, we're good.
Yeah.
Like we still kick ass,
Right.
and you've got to do that well enough, and that's hard in bands because artists, as a general rule, don't show up on time, right? We're
true.
not there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it started at 8, they roll in at 10. You're like, we just lost 2 hours of rehearsal time.
That is the MO in most of the music world. So I'm just before we move forward, I'm just diving into some of this
Oh, yeah. What do we got there?
Adirondack blended straight bourbon. I don't know if it's any good. The guy at the liquor store said it's good. So
All right.
we'll see. I'm gonna throw
We'll find out.
some ice cubes in there because now I'm getting deep into the whiskey here.
I love that. Yeah. Now my voice will match what I'm drinking. This is perfect.
So yeah, I mean that's something I've toyed around with, like the cover band thing, because I know there's definitely money to be made there, and you're still
Yeah.
playing music and it's still fun,
Yep.
and all that. And as a matter of fact, in the last few weeks, I've been working some cover songs into my my solo stuff.
Perfect.
And, it's been
Yeah.
fun. I have a pretty large volume of like original songs though too, so I always end up falling back to it.
Yeah, what you should.
But yeah, I mean, I think you guys were pretty unbelievable. I mean, Avis, what's her background? She has always sung like R&B.
People do not understand what she brings to the table. To your question, because like she's played demos for me, like in the early to mid '90s, where you would think Toni Braxton was her backup singer. Like it was, I mean, just that beautiful, smooth, sultry voice that she does so well. And then I think 2 years ago, she played us this little recording of her singing. It was either God Bless America or like the Star Spangled Banner. And she was like 12.
Huh.
And she was crushing it. Like she could have done that in front of 50,000 people.
Right,
It was
right.
unbelievable what she was doing. So she's sung in church her whole life, gospel, blues background, R&B. And the reason I wanted to build a band around her is because she doesn't, like, if I sit there and go, oh, how cool would it be to have a female singer sing War Pigs from Sabbath? She has no clue who Sabbath is. She's never even heard that song.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have this rock background, and that is so refreshing. So when we didn't do it at your place, but we used to do Kashmir, and we rearranged that for her. And that would level any crowd we played for, because no one could believe that not just a female singer, but a female singer who's African American that tends to sing more of the R&B stuff is crushing Robert Plant.
Right.
So that angle, not just her talent and how much fun she is to play with, but that angle got the wheel spinning real quick. Like, oh, there's something really unique here. So that's her background. And again, in the other band, we had two singers, Brian Dwyer, who's a really gifted singer as well. They played off each other really well because he's got a little bit more of the pop sensibilities, a little more indie, modern stuff. Really, so he brought some cool stuff, and the two of them played off of each other really well. So for covers, it was magical. It was perfect because we could do anything.
I remember from that particular show too. I mean, a whole bunch of people were like, "Oh, can we get them for this gig or for that gig?" Like I got a wedding, I've got a car show coming up, or I've got this or that that's coming up, and they wanted to hire you. Which leads me to ask the question: at this point, is that band still semi happening, or is it?
Yeah, that's kind of the question. We are defunct, but we're not broken up. Like that,
Gotcha.
We've been very strategic to say that we're not dead ever, because
Right.
it was never like we don't like each other. We loved playing with each other, and we got to such a good place that it was almost autopilot.
Right.
And that's where I crossed over. And there was a gig that we were playing, and I remember playing a couple of songs, and I was looking out in the crowd, and I'm like, I want to throw my guitar and destroy my rig right now. Like, I had crossed over to this unhappy place of this is not what I want to be doing. And the crowd was having a blast, and we were killing it. It was wonderful.
Interesting.
But it was just that musician side of me said, if I got to play this song one more time, because in the cover circuit, there's really two ways to go about it. You can be a great party band, and there's plenty of them out there that do really, really well, and they do weddings, and they do all the cool stuff, and they make a good amount of money. Or you could do the tribute thing, which is huge. And that's where you can start pulling in, 5, 6, 7, 8K a gig.
So that's
just dedicated to a particular
funny.
band.
I auditioned for some Pearl Jam Pearl Jam tribute band or whatever at one point, and as I went in there, I ended up making them all play some of my originals during.
Oh, nice, good turnaround.
During
That's a good way to do it.
During the trial, they were all excited about it or whatever, and then afterwards, I got a call. We really loved the original stuff, but I think we're trying to go down the path of the cover, and I just think that's not. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, it's not what you want to do, right?
And like you said, there is money in that. There's like some a bunch of Dave Matthews covers band stuff like that. What's funny is I have yet to see like a good Queen tribute band, and I wonder if that's just because no one can do Freddie Mercury.
People are talking about fear. Like, everybody should be afraid of trying to pull off Freddie. There's like one or two that because I did a lot of this is again my corporate brain. When I was doing research around the country of who's the biggest cover bands and party bands out there, tribute bands, and there's one or two Queen bands out there. There's a band called Killer Queen that's out there that do pretty well, but I mean you can't fib that. Yeah. Like you can, a Rush cover band, like ZBTB is huge around here. Zach Brown tribute band. They do really, really well. As long as you're close and you got good musicians, people are gonna love you. Because you're going to bring the energy and you're going to bring the fun. But you cannot screw up Queen.
Yeah, Queen's
you cannot do that wrong. Like that's
a little tougher.
You will get booed out. So yeah, you really got to have those skills.
That's something too that I found what you just said about coming from the corporate world and understanding the business side of it and how that comes into play. I think with bands and music nowadays, especially, you need to know business if you're going to start becoming a musician, because even if you're an original band, I mean, you have to have someone in the band that is that knows how to run a business.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a few bands that I've seen become pretty successful that are I don't know who in the band is that person, but there's definitely someone, because they're doing the business part of it right.
Yep.
And I think that I started doing this music professionals meetup thing every couple of months back a while ago, and I'd bring in musicians or producers or whatever from around that are part of the music business to kind of like educate people, because I feel like you can go to school for music, but they teach you music theory. They teach you, like, there is obviously music business and stuff like that, but how to network and get into it, like the street level of it. how to
Exactly.
actually, bring your band from, okay, I'm an original band, people sort of like our music, to all of a sudden, making money on it and selling records and going out
Right.
on tour
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of started doing some classes like that, but obviously I'm not at a level of making money only on my music. But I think that's super important with a band, to have that person
Agreed.
in the band that understands how a business is built, what makes the monetary part of it work, how to actually negotiate for a
Oh,
rate
yeah.
with,
Yeah.
with venues or with whatever, if you're selling records, or someone that knows how to market product like CDs and T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. Because essentially what you're doing is you're running a small business.
That's exactly what
as
you're doing.
As
Yeah.
a band with a bunch of individuals that are then going around, and you're paying everyone almost as employees.
Yeah.
So it's a
You
good
nailed
thing.
it.
I think
Yeah.
that you have that, and you have the leadership quality. So I think for a band, man, you're integral.
Well,
for it.
and how many of those, VH1, behind the musics have we all watched where they signed the stupid contract?
Right.
They got hosed. They were 5 million under. 30 Seconds to Mars had the biggest album of their careers, and they still owed the record company $20 million. You know, like that happens so constantly because nobody in bands just has that background. It just
Yeah.
doesn't come up. I'm an artist. I play drums. I sing. I play whatever. And that's what you're gifted at, and that's what you try to get a guy or a gal hooked to you that will protect you, and then
Yeah.
they're seduced because they're getting 10 to 20% of whatever you're making, and now you're trusting them. It's such a cliche story, but it's a cliche because it happens all the time.
And I think it's super important to understand where you could be taken advantage of,
Yeah.
because their sharks are out there.
Oh, yeah.
In every business, in every place, but especially in the entertainment
Mm-hmm.
world. I mean, there's people just looking to take
Because
advantage
all
of
you
from-
want to do is make it. You
Yeah.
want people to hear your music, and it's not even the fame and fortune. A lot of people think everybody chases
Yeah.
that. That's 1/10 of what usually musicians and artists are drawn to. They don't want to necessarily be seen by everybody. They just want their stuff heard.
Yeah.
And hopefully people dig it,
Yeah.
and so they can keep doing it, like you said, for a lifestyle that I can sustain my life
Right.
doing what I love. And that's where the 360 deals come from, where you give a
Yeah.
record company all your merch and your rights to your masters
Yeah.
and your host.
Yeah.
But you're on a tour bus and you're
Right.
touring the world, so you made it. Well, no, you didn't.
You're right.
Because now you
Well,
owe
that's-
them $100,000.
What's
you know?
interesting now, though, you're starting to see artists come up like Kendrick Lamar, who
Oh, yeah.
will realize, okay, I know how to run a business, so I'm going to do this on my own. I really don't need
He's a
a
great
record
example,
company. I
right.
mean, there's money out there. You could take out a loan and
Yep.
get yourself on tour and then pay yourself back the loan.
Control it, right, right.
And from the beginning have full control over everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was bringing to some of these meetings, to understand business.
Smart.
And it's always something that in the past I used to, I'm not a big money. Money doesn't motivate me that much.
Right.
Well, it does in certain instances, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd like to get paid for what I'm doing, but that's not the main.
But that's not the reason you
motivation
get up and
for
do
what
it.
I'm doing.
Right, yeah.
And so I've always taken the business side of stuff, as like a side thing. Well,
Right.
it's there. I don't really need to understand it. If I'm successful enough at the creative thing, then the business side will handle itself in some way,
Right.
which I'm realizing, again, in the last probably 10 to 15 years that was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Had I known the business side of it from the start and treated what I was doing as a business,
Exactly.
I probably would have been way more successful in some of the creative, endeavors that I was doing. So
Yep.
to anyone listening, if you're younger,
Yeah, that's the truth.
understand business from the start.
Yeah.
And I think that'll help, how do you market product? How do you, what are your customers, what are your people listening to you want?
Yeah.
Right. And what do you want?
You
What do
are
you
a
want?
brand.
What do you want your customers to be? Right.
Uh-huh.
Who are the customers that you want to have? Because with music, like you said, you ended up being on stage at one point and being like, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing here right now. So you need to think about that ahead of time. Who do I want my
Exactly.
customers to be? Do I
Yeah.
want them enjoying the original music I'm making? Do I want them to be enjoying, whatever that thing is that
Yep.
you actually love doing on the stage if you're going to be in music? Or
Yeah, you nailed it, because it's and that what's so great about what you just said too has to be a conversation up front that most folks don't have. They either don't have it with themselves or they don't have it with their bandmates. And you got to sit down and put the vision out and lay it out and then blow it to pieces and go, what could go horribly wrong? So like the last band, like some of the members really wanted to do weddings. Some of us didn't. And it had nothing to do with weddings, man. You can make great money and they are fun as hell.
Yeah.
But guess what?
Everyone gets tanked.
Right. It is a little bit of, you're shooting fish in a barrel because you got a encapsulated crowd. But what others don't realize is all the pre-meetings and the husband and wife demands.
Oh,
and
true.
if you're lucky, you get a great couple. And so we said no to a lot of folks because when I interviewed them, as they were interviewing me, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a shit show.
Right.
We are not your band because you want to control the entire set list, tell us exactly what we're going to play. And now we're just a bunch of monkeys paying for money. So there's always that other side of it. So when you just sit down and go, we're going to do weddings, you got to think through what could go horribly wrong. Yeah. What if your gear goes on the shit?
Right.
It's there one day. So what's your backup plan, right? Because that's their day. You don't have a plan B, you're screwed, and you need to build the plan B into the conversation. So they know, hey, if our shit blows up, we play a playlist.
Right.
And now we're a DJ for you. You good with that? Sign right here to say,
Yeah.
So it's all those things, but you nailed it. You don't think about that stuff. You just go, oh, weddings pay $3 to $4K.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Split between 6 people, man. We can make a mint off that. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be careful. Be careful.
So that, I guess, leads us to kind of where you are now, and you've got, that project has kind of run its course, I guess, for now at least. And you're now moving on to doing something else.
Yeah. So it's called Copperhead Kiss.
Should I do a
exactly,
drum roll before?
So you nailed all the right things. So let me start with our marketing plan.
Sure.
Our marketing plan is totally waiting and just building anticipation with the folks that know us and love us. We're not running at this super fast. We've got Facebook and Instagram and the basics, absolutely, and we barely post anything, and it's just little teases here and there.
Right.
Because we want to do
boomerang?
this. Yeah, not yet. No. But
I just learned about boomerang.
Well, you got to do that, because it's just fun. Yeah. So all of those elements that we learned, that we talked about, kind of went into this project, and it started with Avis and I in the middle of our previous one going, we want to play more rock and roll. And this is a party band, and party bands don't play a lot of heavy rock. They just don't do that. So let's be fair to the current project we're in. But at a certain point, man, I'd rather play to the door guy at Lux,
right,
to 2 drunk guys, that are heavily tattooed and spikes coming out of their heads, and playing the music I love, than trying to make 50 women at Remedy, racetrack dance.
Yeah.
And that's no dig, by the way. I love that. That's tons of fun. But what I want to do, what gets me fired up. So that's where it came from. That was kind of the genesis point. So Avis and I started talking, and I said, let me build a band around you. Let's do this right, because if we're going to do this, you need to sing like a rock star, and bring what you do. So we kind of sat down and said, okay, it's Aretha to Velvet Revolver. Like, that's where we're going to hang out. Huh. It's going to be greasy, bluesy, hard rock. Not metal, just hard rock. Good, get you in the gut and the groin stuff. Right. And then we started to look for, who's going to fit in? And that's where kind of karma started to tap us on the shoulder. So I won't bore you with the whole story, but we met this amazing person at a gig in the rain. We were at the CB Brew, annual fall festival. Yep. And it was a cool gig. It paid crap, but it was a cool exposure gig. And it poured on us, and all these people in the crowd. And so this one woman came up to us afterwards. Oh my God, you guys were great. And I'm a backup singer. I do percussion. If you ever need anything, great. So her and I stayed in touch over a period of time. And here comes this project, 4 years later. And I'm like, hey, you said you're a percussionist. Are you a drummer, or are you a percussionist? And she's like, no, I'm not really a kit drummer yet. I'm rehearsing. But I got this friend, and her name is Jessica. And she put me in contact with Jess, and we had Jess come out and watch one of our gigs out at 585, and Jess fell in love with Avis and kind of what we did. And so I'm talking to Jess, and I'm like, okay, so hang on a second. So we got Avis, the female rock singer, happens to be African American. Don't see that every day.
Right.
Wait a minute, female drummer too? Right. Okay, marketing brain's kicking in, going, this could be badass. So what do you do? And she's in two bands, a jazz fusion band and a Motorhead tribute band.
So she's a good drummer.
Holy
is what
crap.
You're saying.
Yes. When was the last time you saw a Motorhead tribute band with a female singer, female drummer, right? So that can play really well Motorhead songs. So I'm like, okay, so my heart's beating fast. I'm like, but is she cool? You know,
right.
that you can play, but are you pain in the ass to deal with? So anyway, so she's a doll. We talked for hours. She got our vibe, what we wanted to do. So next thing you know, she's in. You know, we didn't even try her out. She's in. And then a guy you may remember, Jake Ebel, from Verizon days. The Ebel family's, you know, big musicians, had a million bands over the years and that kind of stuff. And Avis reached out and was like, hey, I heard, you know, Jake might be available. He was a bass player. So next thing you know, I'm like, oh, now I got a talented band. I got a pretty decent looking band. Like, you know, all those little things you try to hope for are coming together. Like, oh shit, we should actually probably play together because this whole thing could crash and burn. So we had one rehearsal, and it was rough the way that it's supposed to be rough, because a lot of folks don't realize that when you're in a band, you have to learn a language. Yeah. And every band has a different language. So I was giving cues that Avis and I had been used to for 5 years. That's a different language. I was talking French, and Jake and Jess are talking, you know, Norwegian and Japanese.
So that's interesting. Before we move on from there, so what's some of the signals? So I usually, so you play guitar while you sing, right? Yeah. So one of my big things is, like, if we're gonna end a song, right, I'll lift the neck up,
exactly,
and down.
That's a perfect example.
End of the song, or, you know, if you're gonna take someone's going to take a solo or something in there, outside of obviously you, right? So what are some of your...
Exactly. It's where your head goes. It's eye contact. Are you nodding? Is nod a yes? Or, you know, the thing that we even had to teach Avis is she would throw up her hand. Well, an open hand means something different than a closed hand. Right. A closed hand is, this is the last time around, right? So everybody pay attention because she's going to end the song. So all of those things come into play, and I use my guitar and my body as part of the cues, just like you did.
Sure.
And the first time we're jamming, I'm looking at Jess, the drummer, and I'm giving her a head nod, and my old head nod meant, good job, keep it going. Right. And she took it as, oh, this is the last one, and we stopped the song. You know, we laughed about it. But yeah, there's 1,000 of those.
So what happened with obviously it was a little rough because it was the first time you guys were kind of getting together. Did you actually have like a formal conversation, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do if we're going further? Like, how did that?
Yeah, we.
So I think of before we. Yeah. So I tend to think of bands the same way. It's kind of like a marriage or like a relationship but you're having like a marriage with, like, you know, whatever it is. If there's 5 people in the marriage, with 5 people.
You're so right.
And communication is hard enough with one person.
Oh, it's so true.
You know, people don't recognize, I think, like people that aren't in bands or have never played music with other individuals, how difficult it is to actually keep everyone on the same page. You know, they're not only their personalities, but being able to communicate. You got it. You know, during the songs, before, you know, during practices. Yes. Making sure people are doing what they need to do. You know, if something's bothing someone, speaking up about it, all that kind of stuff. So
there was pre-work. There was definitely pre-work, and I do believe that bands have an element of democracy. They have to be healthy, because you're dealing with artists. Yeah. Artists need to express. You can't stamp that out. But I also believe in a benevolent dictatorship. So when you look at successful bands, you know, look, you brought up Queen earlier, right? Mm-hmm. The biggest lesson they learned was, for years they fought about publishing rights. Who wrote what part of what song? Right. And I remember reading an interview with Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins saying the biggest thing he would go back and change is not taking all of the rights, because he was the primary writer. He would have divided it 25% between the 4 of them to take all the drama out. Van Halen did that, right? You know, you look at these bands that were able to, they still had drama, but they avoided that drama. Right. So those were the pre-conversations I had, was like, here's the vision of the band. When we pick songs, please come and be ready to pick songs. Like, you've got to say,
Yep.
if we do originals, man, come to the table. But I'm not going to sit there and go, hey, I wrote the melody, I wrote the lyrics, I own 100% of that song. Because drummers don't have rights in publishing. A lot of
Right.
people don't know that.
Yep.
But if that beat is what made that song popular,
Right.
that's bullshit, right? So I can't change the publishing rules, but I can go into this and have the conversation with each of them that says that one word that you changed, that one you took it from an A to a B in the
Yeah.
chord progression, made the whole song different. We're all going to divide this up evenly. No freaking drama.
Yeah, and I think
That was the pre-work.
That's important too, even if you're in a cover band. Like, what's the pay
Yeah.
going to look like
Yes.
up front? And I think that, it can be very, or we're splitting it even
Yeah,
across the whole
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Or, this is my band, so I'm going to take 30%. And that may form some resentment in some instances, but really, if
Exactly.
someone's doing a little bit of the lion's share of the work, maybe it won't build resentment or
Yes,
whatever.
right. If you're
everyone's-
upfront about it,
yeah.
right. Yeah, that's the key.
But it's that's an interesting kind of leadership skill that someone has to have in the band. It's a
Never did that in my
business, right?
20s, right? Yeah.
And I made that mistake a bunch of times, like going into studios with musicians is like, oh, this is, we're friends, come in,
Right.
you put down a track for bass or percussion or whatever, and I don't have the upfront discussion. As a matter of fact, I've started always getting it in writing now.
Mm-hmm.
Always write it in writing and signatures, and I know this is silly or whatever that we're doing this, we're friends.
But you gotta.
Even if I'm not paying them, here's $1.
Yeah.
We've transacted. You're agreeing that this is the thing. So this way, after the fact, there's no question about what it is
Exactly.
we were doing. And I've learned that over time that needs
Yep.
to happen. So I don't know why we kind of get into
No,
that
I love
so
that.
deeply.
I love that
but
because a lot of folks that may listen to your podcast and stuff, it's called mechanical, right? And that's a big business side of being an artist.
Yeah.
If you paint pictures, if you paint fine art, if you are going to add commerce to it,
Right.
you now have contracts,
Yeah.
and you now have costs, and you now have overhead, and you now have all this stuff. So, like Joywave is a great example of a local band where Dan owns the band. It's his vision, but those are his good friends.
Yeah.
Well, they all filed 1099s. They're his employees.
Yeah.
And that way there's no questions, there's no issues. It's all up front.
That's one of the local bands that I was thinking, like, all right, someone has business sense in this band,
Yes.
because what they're doing, obviously, they're successful at it, yes, and they're a great band, yes,
Right.
But they've got the marketing
Yeah.
stuff down. They've obviously got the know-how to keep it as a business in terms of like operational.
Doing very smart stuff.
So
Yeah.
I don't know them personally, but from what I see them doing, that's
Yeah.
where a lot of their success, I think, is coming from.
Without question. Yeah. And they keep their overhead down.
Yeah.
Keep your costs down.
But that's I'm just interested in the language of it, like
Yeah.
how other bands do that. Because I've asked about songwriting too, like how do people write songs when I've had original musicians like that write their own stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what's that process look like for you? Because for me, it's interesting because I do stuff. I've learned some things that on the business side just by experience and being basically fucked over or having a bad experience.
Best way to do it.
Having a good experience, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to continue to do that, or I'm going to not do that anymore.
Right.
Songwriting's a different thing because that comes from somewhere who knows where that
It
that
does.
stuff comes
That's
from,
exactly right. Yeah.
So that really interests me quite a bit.
Yeah.
But
And you nailed it before. All it takes is a little bit of homework. Like, you don't get married to someone you don't know. Like, forget about the bachelor or bachelorette. I mean, there are moments where you have to try some people on.
yeah,
And the band is exactly the same way. Like, people that go out to whatever, Bug Jar and see a band, they don't understand, and by the way, they don't need to. It's not on them to understand. We're there for entertainment.
right.
So you shouldn't have to worry about the drama we've gone through to get here.
Yeah,
But you better get a good product. Well, in order to get a good product, you got to do some homework. You got to have some rules. You got to be able to make sure you're on the same. So creatively, are you on the same page? Then mechanically, is everything fair? Do you feel justified? Because if you've got those things controlled, you've now freed yourself to be truly creative.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. Is I would rather be a little bit of a control freak up front, and get everybody's input and everybody's, here are the rules. Here's how we're going to do things, and then let's be free.
Yeah.
And then let's see where it really goes. And that's where the musicianship and the artistry really can set sail, so to speak.
and I think that's so important, like for younger people, especially like just starting up bands.
Yeah.
You know, to really understand that how important that is, because that's probably some of the reasons why a lot of the bands I was a part of that were great, like musically, it was fantastic,
Right.
but didn't end up lasting, is because that stuff was not set up. You know, I didn't do my business homework ahead
Sure,
of time
yeah.
to learn, okay, I really need to actually be the CEO of the group that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm writing all the songs, I'm kind of, you know, directing the vision of it, then I've got to also set some of the rules, or
Yeah.
set at least the infrastructure in place where rules can be made as we go along, like
Right.
for stuff we didn't anticipate. But the language part of it is interesting to me too.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
what do you do? You know,
Right.
like if you're playing a guitar, you're kicking up stuff. But if the drummer's giving a signal, what does he do? Like, you know, twirling a
Yes.
drumstick in the middle of the
Yep.
the
And
thing.
we all have different signs. Yeah.
And you try to like make it so it's not so obvious to the
That's the key.
audience.
It's got to
too,
be
that that's
seamless
what's
to the
happening.
audience. Yeah. So it's an unspoken language. It's very visual. You nailed it. But it can't be. And that's there's a band that I saw out in Vegas not that long ago, and they're a cover band, and they're making, you know, about $3 to $4 grand a night, and they're playing out easily 150, 160
Wow.
gigs a year. Now they're all studio guys. They're all touring, you know, hired gun guys. So these are pros. These are real pros. And I watch them almost religiously whenever I go out to this venue when I'm out visiting, because they are flawless in their band communication and their in-between songs. If you want to see the difference between a pro band and a band that's got work to do, is how they interact in between songs. Is there a huge gap? Are they having arguments on stage? You know, all those kind of things. That's all natural. It happens because people call audibles and, hey, the audience didn't like that song, let's go a different direction. You got to be able to do that. But the real pro bands, whether it's originals or covers, are the ones that just create that flawless experience where they're just existing in front of you and it's magical. That takes practice.
Yeah.
That does not happen when you just show up on a Saturday to rehearse.
Yeah, and I think
it takes a lot of practice.
Probably some young bands, you know, need to learn that too, because
Yeah.
you make it. You're entertaining, so you need to make it. You need to be the what is it? The Wizard of Oz, right? The magician behind the.
That's exactly
you know,
right,
Behind
yeah.
the curtain. But ultimately, there are microphones, and there's
Mm-hmm.
a little guy behind the curtain that's, you know, speaking into a microphone and making smoke happen.
And
all
we
that
could
kind
talk
of
for
stuff.
another 2 hours on sound engineers and that whole thing. I mean, that's a whole other subject. But yeah, that's exactly right. There's a lot of behind the green.
So I know
curtain.
I stopped you at the communication part of it, but obviously, so you had to learn that. And then, so now you guys are, is it a 4-piece? Is that the...
So that's the fun. This is actually a really good. I love the path that this is taken, because that's literally the path that the band is taking. So we had like 4 or 5 rehearsals in, and I would say about halfway through the first rehearsal, we agreed on some cover songs to pre-learn. Everybody comes, they know their stuff, right? And we're going through a song, and there was a moment. And musicians know these moments because it's a feeling. It's not anything other than your hair kind of comes up off your arms or in the back of your neck, and you were like, holy shit, there it is. We can actually talk the same language. And it kicked. And I remember looking over at Avis, and she had a big old smile on her face, right? Because Avis and I have a language. We've been playing together for years. So now we've got 2 new people that, you know, I can't, I don't want to say offend them, but be so arrogant to be like, well, Avis and I got our language. No. We have to teach our language to them, and they have to teach our language. So we were very humbled by the fact that we could still have a magic moment right off, and that magic moment was going to feed the future. It was like, okay, these are the right people.
Yeah.
And so once we had the second and third one, we're like, holy crap, we just worked through 8 songs in a couple of hours. Like that's some serious work to try to work out that many songs. So we got down this road where we had about 45 minutes worth of covers. Now, the original vision was to be covers and originals. I said it that way on purpose, covers and originals. We really wanted to get in originals. But we're like, the Rochester market, let's do covers as our main thing. So along the way, we all agreed we need a 5th member. My original thought was classic 4-piece rock band, right? You know, we can handle it. And we're playing these songs like, oh, that really needs a Hammond organ. Or that song has got to have a second guitarist, right? I don't want to play lead all the time. Let's get another guy that, you know, can shred a little. So everyone immediately agreed, let's get a 5th member. Well, as of today, we don't have a fifth member. We're going through that process right now. But through that realization, I went out with a friend to San Francisco to see one of my favorite bands. They're on tour. And in the middle of their show, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm doing exactly what I did when I was 22. I want to be an original band. That's it. I don't want to be in a cover band. So I called everybody up and I said, hey, I'm not trying to derail anything. Just, hear me out. This is what I'm thinking. Let's just do originals. And yeah, we'll add a couple of fun covers just because we love doing other people's music. And everyone went nuts. Everybody had that emotional reaction like, yeah, I'm even more excited about that. I was already excited, but now I'm really excited. Right. And you could feel that kind of palatable energy coming from people. Like Jake had only been in original bands. And, Jess had been in both and that kind of stuff. So now we're committed to writing together, which is a whole different language.
Yeah.
We go right back to that conversation. So that's why we're kind of dormant on purpose. And we're just teasing the audience. Now, we're still learning some covers because, as you know, if you're going to play a 45-minute set, the market's probably not going to listen to 45-minute originals.
And I think sometimes, too, you need to introduce, like if the crowd is maybe not mostly there to see you, they're there.
Yes,
like
especially in opening slots.
You need something to kind of wake them up, like, I know
oh,
that song.
yeah.
They'll start singing a little bit to it, or tapping their foot, and then you get them
You
into
get them
it,
hooked.
and you bring them into the set. So.
You nailed it. Yeah, yeah. So now we're both writing and auditioning a fifth member at the same time, which is both petrifying and exciting at the same time
Right.
because I've had this kind of bank of song ideas that I've just been collecting over the years, and I've done nothing with them. I had a friend of mine that I write with, and we just haven't done anything in probably 6-7 years because we used to be neighbors when I lived in a different town. And so I've got all these riffs, and that's what's cool to kind of start to explore. Like, I write riffs. I write lyrics. Like, that's what just kind of comes out of me. Melodies do not naturally come out of my head. But when I hear a melody, harmonies come out and other chords come out. So I'm like, I need to collaborate, and I love that. So that's going to be the fun kind of exploration that we're about to go through.
So going forward, it's going to be mostly, and for those listening, yes, that was ice for another whiskey. I'm going to pour myself.
Excellent whiskey.
If you're driving, you don't have to do
We're
another
good.
One,
my throat feels great, though.
I'm going to do another one. Yeah, that tea was awesome. That's Paris by Harney and Sons. I ordered it.
And I'm not a huge tea guy, but I am absolutely having that again.
I had hot toddies the other night, and I was like, ooh, that's really good.
Yeah.
I got to start drinking that more. So now songwriting, because that's
it's a whole nother subject.
In. We're at about 56 minutes now, but
all right, good.
We can go over. It doesn't matter.
Cool.
I'm not on the terrestrial radio right
there you
now,
go.
so we can do whatever the hell we want.
I love that.
So songwriting, because here's what happens to me.
Yeah.
It's usually in the morning I'll start writing, right? So I'll wake up, I'll be in my boxer shorts somewhere having a cup of coffee. I'll be like, I want to play the guitar. So I'll pick up the guitar. I'll start fooling around with some chords or whatever. I'll play something. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And it'll stick. I'll start playing it. And then all of a sudden I'll start singing some sort of a melody that doesn't have really any words necessarily to it. And then I'll start fitting in the words to kind of the melody that fits with that.
Yes.
And then I'll work out the parts like at a later time. I'll usually record it on my phone or something, go out for the day, listen to it maybe in my car again.
Yeah.
Start listening. Oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I should go off on that. Or I'll sing out of key or slightly off. And I'm like, oh, what if it was like half a step down? That would actually be interesting, even though I screwed it up initially. That actually makes sense if you
happy accident.
Yeah, like Bob Ross.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what
he taught us all.
What typically, if you're going to write a song, because now you're doing more of that, right? So what do you?
Yeah, it's similar and different. What's interesting for me is over the years, I write my best when I don't sit down to write. When I put that moniker on the action, I feel I'm less creative. And because I'm coming from a place of guitar, to be blunt, I'm not a singer. I'm a guitarist that happens to sing backup vocals. So I'm not coming at it from the melody. I'm coming at it from the riff and the beat. And what's funny is, this far into my life, I realized that, my two closest friends growing up were both drummers. And they framed how I think of songwriting because I jammed one guy, a gentleman named Doug, who's a brilliant drummer, still is. We jammed so much growing up, 12, 13, 14, 15 in those years, that everything is I hear the beat. I hear the accents, and I'm kind of going from there. So to answer your question more directly is it comes from a riff. So perfect example, I got a new guitar a week ago, and I sat down with that baby, and I was so excited, and the first two things I played were two brand new riffs. They just came out. And I used the video function, and I face the camera down, and it picks up better volume than the audio function. So I do the video, and I played it over and over again, so I just didn't forget it. Because,
Does it really?
It for me, for guitar, it actually picks up better, so I can actually hear the distinction between the notes. Because for me, my riffs come in my head and leave just as fast as they came in. Right. So if I don't hit record, it's gone. I have to play it 95 times to burn it in my memory or record it. So that usually starts the idea. Now, the secondary thing that happens is I'll drive to work or I'll have something. It's the first line of a song or first line of a chorus. That spurs the process of putting down multiple lyrics. But I do what I call scratch lyrics, because like you, I need the melody to fit the words. I like to phonetically have it flow. So I may say, another summer day with very little sun. That's the opening line. But if the melody doesn't fit all that, all the syllables in that, then it's, another summer day, is now my opening line. I got to fit that. So I just write what I think. Yeah. And then allow a melody to attach itself to that. And so Jake is good at writing melodies. And so, that's where I'm excited about this kind of stuff. And then we bring it to Avis as a singer and go, what's she going to hear? Brandon, we got a fifth guy coming in. What are they going to bring? So right now it's just me documenting ideas, and I'm sending them to Jake and going, do whatever the hell you want with them. Just bastardize them wherever your creative juices go. And it's, it's not to get too mechanical, but throw them into Logic. Try to put a tempo on it, so somebody can track it a little bit, and then let's just see where it goes. So that's really it.
And when you talked about the drummer, growing up with drummers and jamming with them. So my older brother plays guitar, and he's mostly like lead stuff. So he's a much better like lead player, like significantly better technically at guitar than I am. So whenever I write songs, there's always guitar solos and stuff
it influences
in there. That I'm I guess just naturally like putting his guitar playing into my songwriting too. Yeah. So whenever we get together, like I just went down to New York City last weekend, and we get together. It's immediately like I'll start playing my original songs, and he knows exactly where that stuff fits into it.
That's the language.
It's funny that's the case. So all right. So now at this point, you guys,
we're forming.
You've reached out to everyone, and you've said, all right, I want to take the band in this original direction, with some covers, and everyone seems excited about it.
Yep.
Okay. So you're in a holding pattern right now.
Now it's the hard work. We got to do it.
All right. So I'm guessing you have some songs that are already kind of formed at this point?
Yes. And so they're in various stages. Some are very remedial. Some are a little bit more formed, where they have, a chord structure, a chorus, and a bridge, and a drum track.
Are you still keeping to that rock, like the rock?
Yes. Yeah. So it's very much like it still is in that same kind of and the last thing I want to do is put us in a box. Yeah. But it's still in that same kind of threshold. Like I know those kinds of like, babe, I'm going to leave you songs are going to come out of us, because Avis needs to sing songs like that, right? We got to let her, and that's the key thing with a band, is you got to have the right space for the talent in the band. So we have to write songs that create that space for Avis to live in. It's not just about what key or is it in her range. Those are mechanical things that are important. But where is her space to let her fly? Where's the space to create a baseline that shows, not showing off, but allows Jake to really just go for it, right? And Jess is a badass rock and roll drummer. And so when she, starts hitting that snare hard, like, okay, what's the song that's going to create that vibe that gets her that excited to crack it that way, Because then it's passion, and then that's what sells a song, is when you hear that passion. So we're in this kind of second phase of the band. We've had the initial phase, which is, yes, this is going to work. We got the right people. We need a fifth person. We've learned some songs. Now let's actually start sharing ideas. We're starting to write. We're going to get together.
Say the name of the band again.
A Copperhead Kiss.
A Copperhead Kiss, and it would be like a Copperhead Kiss if they search on Facebook.
Yeah, so we're on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're keeping it real simple there. Our website, copperheadkiss.com, just links to Bandcamp for now.
Okay.
We haven't done anything there, but, like you said earlier, we know exactly what merch we're going to have. We've got a kick-ass logo ready to go.
Nice.
All of those things are kind of locked and loaded for when we go live, so to speak. But we're going to have fun because, to your point, the thing I learned in marketing through work is, like, we're not just going to show up and headline. We want to open for other bands and play 20-minute sets. We want to go to the local pub and do a open mic night. And we want buzz.
Yeah.
We want a few people to go, holy shit, who were those guys?
Right.
Where'd they come from? And just we walk off stage, and here's a card.
Yeah.
Look us up on Facebook, and just have that natural buzz. And then the folks that know us and follow us and our friends from the other band will already be involved, and they're like, yeah, we know these guys first, and you get them t-shirts for we have that whole plan. But
Excellent.
we're taking it really slow on purpose.
Huh. Well, I'm excited to hear what you guys got cooking there.
Me too, man.
And I think we're a little over an hour now.
Cool.
The whiskey's been fantastic too. I think I'm gonna have
great
to buy
choices,
more.
man.
He suggested this. I was like, I want some more New York whiskey, and sometimes whiskeys out of New York are a little young, and they're not as smooth. Like, I really dig Iron Smoke quite a bit.
Yes.
But this is pretty good too. Springbrook Farm Distillery.
I agree.
So Jonathan, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is a blast.
And hopefully, again, when you launch, maybe come on and
I would love to.
We'll have the whole band.
Yes.
In here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll actually have a real studio instead of my apartment. But I mean, it
Either
kind of
way,
feels
man,
like
this is awesome. Yeah.
Feels like it is. I was actually thinking, because the rooftop here is going to be all done. Like, oh, maybe I could do them on the roof, but the wind might be crazy. So
if the Beatles could do it, we would pull it off. Come on.
right. But I'll tell you this. So I don't know if they have my apartment bugged here, but I was like, what would be really cool is if I started doing like just impromptu concerts on the roof.
Oh.
I'll have a little cooler, sell some
that'd be
beers, sell some
great.
cider or whatever out of
Yeah.
the cooler. Don't tell them that I'm doing that, but have like rooftop parties and stuff up there.
Well, look, here's what I love about your location already is right around the corner is the Spirit Room, which is one of my favorite newer bars. They've been around for about a year and a half. And they do really eclectic, weird, kind of funky music there.
Huh.
Little small stuff, not like full band stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe that Rochester has that I think a lot of people don't notice, is they've got really unique stuff going on. So where you are is perfect for that kind of stuff, and what you're doing is perfect for that kind of stuff, because there's plenty of artists that would take you up on that.
And it's funny that you say that too, because I grew up in Queens and you grew up in San Francisco, right? So I feel like the people that grew up in Rochester and were born here or whatever, I don't think they actually see what
Totally agree.
Sometimes what is here as compared to other cities, like the opportunity that's available, because it's a smaller city, right?
Yeah.
But they're doing bigger city things, which means there's more access to those things, and there's less people fighting over those resources for
totally agree.
Cool places to go. I mean, you could write for the newspaper if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You could do things that you just wouldn't have the opportunity necessarily to do in like a New York City or San Francisco or in LA.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And then make it grow.
Yep.
So it's funny that you see that.
Yeah, it's a great town, man.
I've yet to go to the Spirit Room.
Got to check it out.
Or maybe I've been there in a drunken haze and don't remember it.
Oh, that's possible too. Yeah. And the good news, you can stumble right there. Yeah, you can walk right there.
That doesn't happen very often, but I do want to go there because somewhere, actually, Zamir was telling me about that. I guess one of his friends or something. He's like, "Oh, let's go do the podcast there." I'm like, it might be too noisy at like a bar to do a podcast, But I do want to check that out. So they have live music, like
they do.
Tends to be smaller.
Yeah. They got like a little corner, and they've got like an old stand-up piano and an old '50s mic, and they just bring in like 3, maybe 4 people, and it's really cool, like eclectic stuff. It's rockabilly, it's soul, it's anything can happen there, and you're gonna have crazy cool drinks. You're gonna get your palm read by a lady in the corner, and it's just. Whether it's contrite or it doesn't matter. it's just adding to that cool vibe of Rochester. And, High Falls is growing, and there's just so much upward mobility
I
here.
tell you what, if you ever need a terrible acoustic original singer-songwriter to open
you're signed
for you,
up. You're signed up.
That'll
Yeah.
make you sound fantastic.
Oh, yeah, please. I've heard you. Trust me.
You let me know.
Oh, that's a deal.
I'll be there.
That's a
I'll
deal.
be there to taint the crowd. Like, please put someone good on stage.
Oh, stop it. No. That's perfect, man.
No, I'm joking. I'm self-deprecating. But
Yeah.
Jonathan, man,
It was great.
I really appreciate
the
it.
opportunity. Yeah.
Let me know when you have shows. Say the name of the band again.
Copperhead Kiss.
Copperhead Kiss. So copperheadkiss.com. Just search Copperhead Kiss.
Yeah, go on Facebook, go on Instagram. We're there. You got it.
Excellent. So before I end it, though, where did that name come from?
Yeah. So that name, the funny part is our bass player found it as a song from a band that I actually like called the Black Pistol Fire. And I didn't know they had that name of the song. So it was kind of this karma that came around again. I'm a huge Kiss fan.
Yeah.
And I always liked the dichotomy of that logo of Kiss and Lips. And I was trying to have something that we've got 2 females in the band, but we're powerful. This isn't the Go-Go's. This is strength. This is coming from a place of strength. And in that genre, you get a lot of that crap, like Joan Jett had to fight through and all that kind of stuff. So that's where Copperhead came from. It was like, oh yeah, we may be sexy and may kiss you, but it's going to sting. It's going to leave a mark.
Right.
So that was that kind of juxtaposition. I was like, oh, and then it's got a color behind it. It's got a good. And I tested it with a couple of people, and they're like, "Oh, dude, I love that name." And then we got the logo. I was like, "Oh, we got this." So that's where it came from.
You actually did market
I
research.
did. I totally did. Yeah, focus groups and everything. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so copperheadkiss.com and
Yep.
search it on Facebook, Google it, and then soon you'll have some gigs here in Rochester and soon internationally, Japan,
Gonna take over the world,
Sweden,
man. Yeah,
South Africa.
that'll be our weekend job.
The usual.
Exactly. Yeah, flying to
usual
London.
places. Again,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So you are listening to Infiltrate Radio. We'll talk to you soon. I don't know when the next episode is going to happen. I've got, I think Biz LaChance. He actually used to work at Verizon
Oh,
too.
I love Biz.
So he's doing a ton of film stuff.
Oh, he's
here
doing
in
a ton of
town.
great
So,
stuff. Yeah.
I think I'm going to be on a project with him soon too. But I think that's the next episode. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to hear letters or emails or whatever that if he's not the next one. But thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Infiltrate Radio.